Hello everybody, welcome to Roundtable Special Series Railway Trip in Tibetan Style. I am He Yang. I am actually on a boat doing the show with you, and I've got now an expanded and very talented RT team. Here's Lai Ming and Huangshan, and Fei Fei and Niu Niu. We're going to bring you a show on this boat. So if you see a little bit of wobbling, it's because we're floating on a lake called Tuojiji Lake. And do you see in the background?
The Potala Palace.
The Potala Palace. So we are at the Zongjiao Lukang Park. And this is apparently, according to internet users, the best place to take that inverted reflection picture of the Potala Palace. So here we are, guys. So we've been at this park for a little while, and we've been floating on the lake a little while too, and doing a radio show as well as with the video stream. How are you guys feeling so far?
We are happy that you are fully recovered, almost fully recovered, and back to the show.
Yeah. Well, thank you for mentioning that. And
what is that?
And this is the thing that gives me so much gravitas and comfort right now. I don't want to make this show about me, but basically I had a medical emergency, and that's why I missed the show. Lai Ming, Huangshan, and Fei Fei, you guys did an amazing job interviewing the teacher and student from a school,
Dongke language school in Lhasa City.
Exactly, and if you haven't watched or listened to that episode, I would urge you to do that because it would be a great miss if you didn't. And now we're in a, would you call this a noisy park, a busy park? Because I do hear a lot of music in the background.
A lively park. Yeah, very vibrant.
Dancing park.
Yeah.
Buoyant, certainly. We've been here for 2 hours, and for the entire 2 hours, people in the distance have been dancing to loud music. And this is, I think,
traditional gojang dance. It's dancing and singing in a circle. I think originated in Tibet, and they are with this very specific kind of dancing moves. Makes me want to join them, but I have 2 left feet, so that didn't work. And also have this amazing show to do, so here I am.
And there are multiple square dancing groups out there, and they just use their own music. They have different tastes in music. I really appreciate one dancing group. I want to join them desperately because they're doing rap. Rap is very vivid. They're talking about the vibrant sports culture and lifestyle in Lhasa, Tibet. So. This is amazing. You know, people can enjoy their own music and dance with it. Or just DJ drop the beat and join the dance.
And it was so funny as some of the locals were telling us that sometimes you get the turf war. A battle of different groups because they all have their different kind of music and dance, and it's like who's got the better spot, and you know, and also like you guys said, the dance style is different, and then this just shows that, you know, here with the different types of Tibetan culture, actually, you know, they have their own kind of music, and then this is just the vibrancy of the Tibetan culture, and it just brings so much joy to an outsider to see that so much of that culture is preserved and alive today. And also, you know, just the background. We do see that some locals are doing well, you know, enjoying their time, rowing the boat, paddling the boat actually, and so this is what an everyday. Is it the weekend yet? I can't even remember now.
Friday.
So those who are enjoying their leisure time here in Tibet, you know, just going into the park, getting in a boat, row a little bit, paddle a little bit, and then we join their mix.
And we are about to hit that boat that's sitting.
It happens
at a harbor.
Well, did you guys know that this park is actually part of the Potala Palace, actually.
It's the backyard of the Potala Palace.
Backyard garden. Nice one to have.
Yeah. And actually, I think it's reconstructed in 2006. Previously, it was a garden that's charging for not a lot of money, but still it's charging. But after 2006, they decided to do some remake of the garden, of the park, of this amazing place we're in right now. And they even did a little bit research to different age groups. Apparently, for people who are in the age of 15 to 25, decided this should be a place with a mix of modern and traditional. They should be having all these elements. And for people in the age of 25 to 50, they decided this park should be the place with a lot of entertainment activity. I believe they want to have a quality family time and maybe take their toddlers to have a place to go.
Like this boat. Yeah, you can see from the background.
Toddlers.
You can see there are a lot of like family trips here, and many parents are bringing their kids on the boat. But I would say the front part of this park belongs to elderly people.
Exactly. Actually, for people over the age of 50, they decided that this park should be a place that they can pass their leisure time, 过零卡, their tradition, and they should be able to have picnic here. They should be able to dance the traditional Guozhong dance, and so people have different needs. That is why in this park we have different function zones, we have different facilities providing, or let's say catering this need of different age groups. So really a good park in the city of Lhasa.
Yeah, and the park's been upgrading itself over the years.
Wow.
I think earlier this year they've sort of transported a lot of lotus flowers to the lake.
Where are they?
I think in the smaller lake, where people are dancing, not in this lake. Apparently, people will be
people want to
paddling the boats.
Yeah.
So I think they've transported more than 100 lotus flowers from other parts of China. But I'm not sure if if growing lotus flowers would be a different challenge on a high plateau here.
We don't want to disturb the flowers.
Yeah.
And there are a few dozens of willow trees on the riverbank, and these trees have been here for more than a few hundred years. So it's definitely a lot of green lush that you can see here in summertime, and it almost offers a contrast to the white walls and the redness on the Potala Palace, and it just makes today's video stream quite special, I would say. And yes, I think, was it the third day after we arrived in Lhasa, we had a chance to climb these stairs. Was it like 7 stories or whatnot? And then climb the hill to go up into the Potala Palace, which was super exciting for anybody who comes to Tibet and Lhasa, because this is the landmark place that you gotta go, right?
Sure, because
Lainey's been there a few times, so he doesn't share the excitement,
I've been
unlike
to the
some
Potala
of us.
3 times.
Really?
And
there you go.
But still, I don't remember it being so tiresome. That was quite the climb, really, and maybe my physical conditions have deteriorated over the years.
Don't say that.
Really something to think about.
Because the previous times you've already adjusted to the altitude, and this time you just want to challenge yourself and climb the stairs outside of a Potala Palace in the first couple of days.
I didn't want to challenge myself, but the rest of the team are all going, but I thought I shouldn't be a lone ranger. I should also be a part of it.
And also, I think it's really worth going. I mean, even though you've been there 3 times, actually each and every time you would pick some little detail that you didn't notice the previous time.
Right.
And also revisiting that part of the history, knowing that it started, the construction around the 7th century, and relived a lot
destroyed, rebuilt, destroyed, rebuilt.
Exactly. Sometimes even if I'm not wrong, a thunderstorm strike. Which
that did happen.
Yeah, some details that will help you refresh your memory and enjoy the visit, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
And as first-timers to the place, anybody would be wowed by the place and by the palace, and also because no photography or recording is allowed inside, and therefore I think it's actually a really good thing in the sense that it forces everybody to put away your phone and really focus and concentrate on the visuals and try to take the photo shoot using your eyes and forever remember it. And it is really magnificent. This place will not disappoint you, even with the altitude sickness. It still kind of stirs your attention. And would you guys give us a little bit of the history, or what it stands for, or what did you feel that really struck you when you went into the Potala Palace?
This is the highest palace in the world in terms of altitude, and with an elevation of 3,700 meters. And I really appreciate the structure of this palace. If you look from the front, you can tell there are two big color sections. One is the Red Palace. The Red Palace is for the religious functions, including chapels, shrines, and libraries. And on the back, you can see the white part. The white part, the White Palace, is for living quarters. So all the monks, they're living there and they can study in there. So, wow, this is amazing when you just look at Potala Palace. It just presents a place that for the holiness of the religion and also for the culture and history. And if you have the chance and to climb up at the top of the Potala Palace, you feel like, wow, you're really at the roof of the world. And you can tell all the houses, constructions, or hotels and monasteries around the city are not allowed to surpass Potala Palace in height, in order to show the respect to the sacred place.
Well, respect, that I'll give you that.
How did you feel when you visited Potala Palace?
Well, my feeling is more detailed. I ran into a cat. At the exit of the palace. The cat is covered in cinnabar, and so it's basically the cat was originally white, but it's turned sort of a yellow, sort of red in the color, and it really brings me down, really close to the Potala Palace, because with all the history and religion and politics in the past, and when seeing the cats, you start to feel like, it's like any relics in China, that there will always be stray cats around, living by tourists or living by things around the palace or the parks. So it's really nice, and I think it's also one of the stars of the Potala Palace, because people have been fascinated by the cat and taking photos and videos and trying to pet it.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
And definitely, this is a place you need to see, guys. And what about us? Like, we've been here for 2 weeks now, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I still need the oxygen cylinder or a small oxygen tank, so that I'm not just gasping for air like a dead fish on the riverbank. But guys, what's the most memorable thing that will stick with you as we leave Tibet, and that's going to be soon?
I'm going to share something that's not that romantic, that people don't commonly associate with Tibet, and that is the nucleic acid test that we have to do before we come here and after we come here. I count at least 3 times that we have to do just to make sure that we get the pass or the sanction to go ahead and move on to a different part of the region. Before we came here, we did COVID-19 nucleic acid test to prove that we are healthy to get on board a plane, and also to enter the Tibet Autonomous Region. And on the day we arrived by train here, just outside this train station, we did another test, so we can move on in just a couple of days to a different region, to Ningqi. And then before we move on to Shikaze, we also did another test. So my memory is occupied with these nucleic acid tests that we have to do, because we are facing resurgence of the Delta strain of COVID-19 across the country, and we made the plan to travel here to tell you many stories, good stories about this region. We couldn't afford to put up this plan, but we also want to make sure that we are safe, and also wherever we are, wherever we travel, people around us are safe. So we've done 3 nucleic acid tests. And that's because I've been to Tibet many times, so this is something extraordinary that I'd like to keep in my memory.
I think you should give the medical workers the credit. They're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
They're fast, they're efficient, and you only have to scan some codes and pay for the test, and you can get it as many times as you want, actually. I'm not really sure how much you want to test yourself, but one of our drivers actually said, I want to get the test. I've been, communicating
you guys?
with a lot of tourists. Maybe it's a good idea if I take the test. So is there a little slot for me to do that? Sure, go do it. So you can get readily available tests here in Tibet.
What about you, Feifei?
I'm also really impressed with the people's attitudes toward all the control efforts here, because I interviewed a bunch of them, taxi drivers, tourists from other parts of China, and also people working in tourism. And they are showing really understanding to the fact that there will be less tourists here because of the control efforts, and also tourists are also understanding the fact that they need to return to their home as soon as possible and maybe shorten their trips or even cancel their trips altogether. And at the same time, people are also expressing confidence. They believe that this resurgence will be controlled in a matter of time, and they will see more tourism, and they will see more booming economy maybe later in the year. So I'm really impressed and surprised. Frankly, I'm a little surprised by their attitudes because, frankly, if you have to shorten your trips or cancel your trips, it's troublesome. And it also upsets you a little bit because of the plans being disrupted. But they've also been very cooperative and understanding all this happening and all these changes.
I think the part impressed me the most was yesterday's our conversation and discussion with the local people. Whenever I visit a new place I haven't been to before, I like to talk to local people because they can give me the first-hand information. I won't be influenced or be influenced by these media reports. I can get my own input of the knowledge. And by talking to the young students and the teacher there, I really touched by their dedication to language learning. And we know that in our regular shows, we want to reach out to Gen Zers, the Generation Z. And it just happened to be yesterday's students he belonged to that age group. And I'm very happy. It's such a privilege to talk to young people belong to that age group who's living in Lhasa and the Tibet Autonomous Region. And the other thing that changed my mind, I would say, is about the convenience brought by smart technologies and in terms of the lifestyles. Actually, I didn't feel much difference from our lifestyle in Beijing or other cities around the country. We can use the taxi hailing apps, and we can use food delivery apps. Everything is so convenient. You can walk into a really fancy shopping mall, enjoy the catering service and the shopping experience in just one very comprehensive department store. This is amazing. This is just like our everyday life in other parts of the country.
Once you get used to the elevation of this place, and certainly the tranquil background combined with the traditional Tibetan music that actually sometimes has a pop music flavor to it, which really impressed me very much, as you constantly feel tradition, unique culture, and modernity amalgamated together, and that is something that I think is truly special of today's Tibet. And we've been here for a little while. We've brought you a series of special shows, and well, we're gonna say goodbye, like not in a day or a couple of days time. So this is going to go down in Roundtable's history as definitely a fresh attempt of revolutionizing traditional radio, and also bringing you all these videos and streaming them online, and so you can see the 360 degree of Tibet. And it's been quite a journey to bring that to you, and I would say that despite hiccups, but it has been a very enjoyable journey, and we do have more videos and radio content for you, so please stay tuned. I'm He Yang, and here on the boat with me are Lai Ming, Huangshen, Fei Fei, and Niu Niu. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back to Roundtable's special series, Railway Trip in Tibetan Style. I am He Yang. As you can see, I've got my cool specs on, and we are no longer on a lake, in a boat, and we are here on a tract of green land. And I have Lai Ming and Niu Niu.
Hi.
Hello.
Huangshen and Fei Fei here with me.
Hello.
So for this spot of land, usually it would be local Tibetan people who would be conducting their guolingta here, that is having their picnics and possibly camping. And we're
Singing and chanting.
Singing and chanting.
Can we do that?
Doing whatever you like, and it's just really sweet when they pack their own lunches and have some delicacies put in those little containers, and also having these flasks for their sweet tea or butter tea. That's all really nice, and we do not have any of that stuff, but we
We are happy.
We have each
where we
other.
are.
At least we've got each other. Yes, and today's show, you can catch us via video on all the CGTN platforms, and Sina Weibo at 英语环球广播, and of course on Facebook. And you can always find us on Apple Podcast at Roundtable China. Leave us a message, let us know what you think of the show and all that good stuff. And guys, today's the show, the final show that we are conducting here in Lhasa in Tibet. So I'm trying to sort of rewind in my mind what it was like on day one, and here we are. So guys, I have questions for you. What was the thing that you expected or assumed that you knew about Tibet, but now after all these days here, you realize, huh, that was actually so far from what I expected? So, Huangshen, why don't we go with you?
I would say probably the bathroom, because there are, before some people shared with me, like if you visit Tibet, you should be prepared with the bathrooms. But now I think when I travel around the city and when I use the restroom or bathrooms, they're quite clean, and they're meeting the sanitary standards. So this is probably the efforts through the toilets revolution or toilets improvement campaign. It is pretty good, because you do need a bathroom everywhere. When you drink, when you eat, and in a tourist site, you want to use the bathroom a little bit. The other thing is about the lifestyle. probably before according to the information exposed to me, and I think Tibet is a very traditional place. I may expect people are living a very traditional lifestyle, but here I think earlier on the show we mentioned that, well, e-commerce platforms are very popular in this region, together with the all kinds of services provided by the e-commerce platforms. We can use all kinds of delivery apps in here. So people here are more vibrant and more modern than you think. They have done a pretty good job in reaching a balance between the modernization and preserving their traditional elements, I would say.
Great stuff. Well, what about you, Feifei? What do you think was the thing that you expected, but actually reality here in Tibet actually defies your expectation?
So the first thing I have in mind is not really out of my expectation, but more like a surprise, is that how Tibetan women are more independent right now. Like along our way from Lhasa to Ningchi and Shikasi and then back to Lhasa, I've talked to a lot of women, from like entrepreneurs, from young women to farmers in rural areas, and also women with not very strong education backgrounds, but they're working. They're working and they're making their own money, supporting their families, their children, and doing the things they want. And they also have their own dreams. For example, one of the Loba women we've talked with, and she had dreams of setting up her own online shop, selling her weaving products. And as well, we've also talked about with female graduates from colleges in Beijing, and she returned to her hometown in Ningchi and helping her family business. But she also has like her own idea of how marketing and branding should be like. So I've never have like an image in my mind about how Tibetan women should look like. But coming here, talking with them, and I realized how vibrant and how independent they are right now, and I'm really happy to see that. And another thing was quite out of my expectation is how, I think we've talked about this a number of times on the show, is how the tea culture here in Tibet. Because in Mongolia, milk tea, drinking tea is also a very important part of the social life. But it's not as important as what it is here in Lhasa and in other parts of the region. And people would be treating it like an essential in life, that you have to have tea at some point in your life, in your day life. So I was quite surprised to see that as well.
So it's kind of like, for some people who are like coffee lovers, like outside of China, and then it's like if you don't have your caffeine to like have that kick in the morning, and then you feel you're not woken up, or this day hasn't officially started. And here is the sweet tea and the butter tea. That's got yak fat in it.
I love them.
Someone's already, getting climatized to Tibet. So Nyo, same question to you. And what do you feel now?
Well, actually, before coming here, I did a little bit of research, tried to prepare myself with all the, I'll say, different, exquisite, interesting culture I want to blend in. I was given the information that, for example, if you are walking in or surrounding a temple, you should always go clockwise. But it turns out if you're a tourist, you do not know that. If you go counterclockwise, it's fine. People won't point and see. People won't frown upon you. They're very customized to tourists already, and they're very welcoming and very, I would say, tolerant towards all these, little mistakes you make along the way. And of course, there are situations, for example, I learned that here people do not use coins as much. They use paper notes, because actually on paper notes here in Tibet, you can see Tibetan language on it as well. So Mandarin, Tibetan, it's a fun paper note. I would really want to have one as one of my collection, but it turns out you don't even need to use a paper note as well, because you can always use WeChat Pay, Alipay, whatever e-platform you are happy about. And another one was about the cuisine. Because I'm a foodie, I love local food, and I was given the information that here in Tibet, actually on top of the Tibetan style cuisine, Sichuan food should be a mainstream cuisine in the city, at least in Lhasa. But it turns out you can have anything you want, any kind of food, domestically or overseas. Actually, yesterday I had some Korean style barbecue. I ate too much. It's really delicious. Not very different from any other cities you travel here in China. So yeah, it's different in the way that I feel like it's not that different.
And just as a little cautionary note for your information, we are in a park after all, and therefore there are lots of little kids running around, parents, family, and also just people who are having a good time here. So you might have already heard kids howling in the background and also loud music. And yes, we are in a park that apparently has a battle of dances every day. So there are various different Tibetan dances and music that's on display every day. So just bear in mind that we do have that kind of special ambience here. And Lai Ming, what about for you that kind of surprised you about Tibet after, you know, being the seasoned hand who's been here so many times, but are there still things that are kind of like a wow factor for you in Tibet?
Well, for the most part, I think I'm quite familiar with the region. I'm familiar with the scenery of people walking around the Potala Palace and the Drokhan Temple, and people shopping and just loitering on the Bakhuo Street. And so a lot of it is very familiar to me. And the butter tea tastes the same, and the people are just as kind. But there is one thing that really shocked me, and that is the level of professionalism. Previously, I've only been here on brief stays, even though I was here 3 times. So during these brief stays, I had little contact with the local professionals. But this time around, we spent almost 2 weeks. We have to arrange this and that kind of interviews with this and that kind of entities, companies or restaurants. So every time I reach out to them to set things right, they're always there to stand by to receive our communication and also to set things right. So as a result, I'm really impressed, because really Tibet is in the West China, and if you look at the time of sunset every day, there's almost a 2-hour time difference from Beijing, and you would expect people to work on a different schedule, really, because really breakfast in our hotel is 7:30 to 10. Can you believe it? So you would expect people to work on a different schedule. Maybe in Beijing time, we're supposed to be up and working at 8 a.m. And the locals maybe are still getting ready to get up and have the breakfast, but none of that happened. When we feel like we need to reach out to somebody at 8 a.m. or 9 p.m., 11 p.m., they're always there. So that really changed my perception of the local people here. Before we came here, we thought, well, this is a plateau, there's the high altitude element, and people are supposed to move very slowly and talk very slowly and execute things very slowly. But we witnessed nothing of the kind. We are always well received, and we are always obliged. So this is what impressed me the most during this time of our trip here.
Yeah, that's definitely a level of professionalism. And I think for local people, if you visit those who still conduct their lives in a more traditional way, for example, like the herdsman people, or let's say those who, you know, who open their own hostels or whatnot, I think their pace of life is slower than what it is in cosmopolitans here in China. But when they interact with outside people for business, for operation, you see that they have managed to match with the pace that is necessary so that things get done. And that is the part I understand that's being accommodating, that is certain level of hospitality and also, you know, professionalism. So that, I think, I do agree with you, Lai Ming, and I do see that as definitely something you shouldn't worry about if you are ever going to conduct business here in Tibet. And the thing that surprised me a little bit is actually, I wouldn't say that that's something, I guess I knew that Tibetan people would be speaking Tibetan language, and, you know, that the language would be on signs everywhere and people would be speaking the language and all that. But when you're actually here, and then you hear the announcements on the train or in a park or whatnot, and it's all in Tibetan, and then it took me a moment to really realize and put my foot down and go, wow, the language and the religion is so alive and well here. And that's something, as someone who obviously don't speak it, but I enjoyed it tremendously. And I have so much respect for this part of the culture that is very different from what I'm used to in Beijing. But I think just having this chance, and this is all in China, right? And realizing how diverse our country is, and that there's so much respect given to the diverse cultures and the languages and the religion and the whole package. And that is something that's a huge lesson for me too, to live in that for as brief as this time has been. So I think that's something that I'm really happy to sort of take away with me. And also nature. We've talked a lot about biodiversity, about the protection of nature in Tibet, and also just in all of the cities we've been to, you know, railway trip in Tibetan style, and you sense that there's nature in all these cities, that it's almost like if you open the window and then you see mountains, you see green trees, and that's not something that somebody who grows up in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, you know, these big cities in China.
Guangzhou could be, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you can see all the grains in Guangzhou.
Okay, but do you see this like raw lush of, you know, of nature, like almost going to leap into your room?
That's
kind of
a
thing.
different like landscape, I would say. Here you can see all the nature are very close to you. You feel like you're in the nature. You can see, wow, the clouds are not that far back.
Yes, and that too. The clouds, you know, and the mountains so close to you. And I've lived in London and New York and all those places, and they have like really nice park greens in the city, but this is different. This is almost like, I can only say rawness, and then that can really grab you. And I think this relationship between nature and human, it's so intimate, and it's great to sense that here. So if you love nature and you love clouds and almost being able to touch the sky just like that, you gotta come to Tibet. Yeah. And guys, what about the things that you wish we could have done, but we didn't manage to squeeze it in our grueling routine this time?
Beginning with me?
Yep. Go ahead. Yes.
Oh, I think I've done everything I can where I am in Lhasa. This is my fourth time here.
You can wait. You can wait. Think about your answer. I'm anticipating a better one.
Okay, I'll start.
What about you, Nyo-Nyo?
Actually, I've been here for 14 days. It's my first trip here to Tibet. I thought I would have seen everything. I would have embraced everything, taken it in. But actually, being here for 14 days only made me want to be here a little longer, because I only had like a brief interaction with local people. Yes, I went to a family farm growing lucidum, ganoderma, as well as a...
Do you mind just also saying that in Chinese?
Yeah, it is this specific mushroom that is considered a traditional herbal medicine, very good for your immune system and stuff. So I went there, I went to the vegetable base, I went to even a
very beautiful and interesting local Tibetan tea house. And I also went to this yogurt workshop, and I tried to make the butter tea, Tibetan style butter tea. Very interesting story. I'll save it for later. But the point is, I've been to all these places, but I only had a brief moment with the local people, with the local tradition, with the local practice in their daily lives. And I cannot help imagine, what if I have, for example, 3 days for each location. I can stay there and live a day with local people and try to really blend in and try to really live a Tibetan style life for just a day. And that would be amazing. And I think the content I would be able to bring about in all these live streams had experience like that would be totally different.
I see exactly what you mean. And also when you're on a working and reporting trip, it's different from you're actually traveling for your own pleasure. Very different. Because the first thing you wake up in the morning, it's like checking your itinerary and the to-do list and making sure that your makeup is done and everything. And I'm not going to go into detail, but that's work. And we are happy to do that for you. Okay, guys, what about you? What are the things that you wish maybe we could have done? Or let's just plan it for your next trip to Tibet.
I start? Okay. I would say I want to spend more time in Shikasa. It's one of the stops on our route. And because I want to visit the Tashi Lompo Monastery. It is the summer palace and also the seat of Benchen Lamas. It's an amazing place because if we say Potala Palace, it presents a sense of majesty. On the contrary, and the Tashi Lompo Monastery it's more like a treasure trove of amazing art. It has one of the most famous sitting Buddha made of copper. If you love jewelries and precious gems, that's a must-go place because you can go in there, check the sitting Buddha, and just between the eyebrows of the Buddha, they say it was in the forehead, was encrusted with over 1,000 pieces of gems, including diamonds, pearls, and probably also turquoise and also emeralds. Wow, that's amazing. And also, that monastery is famous for the shining golden roofs together with the red walls, which signified a sense of holiness. And also, this is a very traditional and very religious place that you can get the real sense of the Tibetan culture and also the history and the significance of Buddhism in the region. So next time, if we still have the chance to come back to Tibet again, I want to stay more time in Chikatsit and also Ningchi. Ningchi is my favorite city, I would say. So next time, probably I want to bring my families here and just spend one night at the Lulang town. That place, it's just like a very tranquil place. It's not like a town that exists in the modern world. You want to have that kind of lifestyle away from the hustle and bustles in your daily life. You just want to focus on yourself, reflect on yourself, and trying to heal yourself a little bit through the beautiful sceneries in Ningchi.
Yeah, you can't help but feel a little bit spiritual when you come here.
Yes.
Yeah, what about you, Fei-Fei?
I kind of agree with Huangshan. I wish we could stay in Shikata for a little bit of a longer time.
Okay. 4,300 meters above sea level. Take that in.
Okay, I know the altitude, high altitude sickness is real, and we've all been experienced it. But for some reason, I want to go to the Mount Chamalama base camp.
Oh, yes!
Like, you know,
challenge. I forget to add that. Yeah.
I've heard, you know, it's harsh. The weather is harsh, and the living condition is harsh as well. But I just want to, you know, experience myself and to see.
Challenge yourself.
Yeah, to challenge yourself, and also, you know, I think it's a once in a lifetime thing that you would do. Like, you're not going back to the Mount Chamalama base camp multiple times unless you are professional mountaineers. And I also think Tibet would be a perfect place for extreme sports.
Such as?
Mountaineers and skydiving. You know,
wow.
With all the high altitude sickness going on, it would be really nice to train yourself to tolerate more harsh and extreme situations. I start to see your faces, your expressions, and sensing that you have really complicated thoughts in your mind.
But there are so many expressions in my mind right now. But go on, I'll save them for later.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You know, with all the landscapes, it would be nice to look over from really high above the sky and then jump off the plane, and then you have a great view of places like Ningqi or Shikate, and with all the greens, all the mountains and the yaks, herds of yaks. That would be perfect and so breathtaking to be able to skydiving in Tibet.
Wow, that is very cool.
That's just a really wild idea that I had in mind. I'm not sure if Tibet really has such business
for that
going on, or if it's really okay for humans to do that on such high altitude. But that's what I sort of want to challenge
I think
at some point.
Right, for adrenaline junkies, yeah, that sounds great. And also for people who are in extreme health, as in really good health, that could be an option. But for some of us who are just a little bit maybe on the weaker side, and you just didn't know when you were living in a place that's like 44 meters above sea level called Beijing, you thought you were, pretty all right. And then until you sort of almost like collapse in Tibet. And I think this has really made me realize that although we all react differently to the climate, to our surroundings, but for those who were not originally from Tibet to come over to help the local people out, it could be, doctors who come from Beijing, Shanghai, some of the top hospitals in China to support those in medical need in Tibet, and also sort of imparting the medical knowledge that is really top-notch in the world and bring that here to Tibet so that more people can benefit from that. And that's one example. And also like all those people who are public servants who come over, and also individuals like entrepreneurs who are realizing their dreams here in Tibet and bringing some of the tested and tried business operations from other Chinese cities to Tibet, and really, giving a boost to local economy. And I think for those folks, hats off to you too. I mean, everybody's got something to gain, but also there's, I think, camaraderie of, being a fellow Chinese person maybe, and also just coming here and supporting the locals in some sense. And that, gosh, that's going through a lot. Even physically you can feel it. But we've seen so many of these people, like in Tibet, and there's truly this living together, working together, and building a life together, no matter where you're from in China. And then you meet everyone here in Tibet, and that's a great feeling.
Yeah, that is actually also a very sweet story you reminded me of by that amazing speech. I love it here. Because yesterday I went to a yogurt workshop, and the founder of the workshop actually came here in 2006. The reason that he could do that was because the open to business of the Qinghai, Qinghai Tibet Railway, that actually started in 2006, and he came here and he came back here again in 2007 and decided to stay and open the yogurt workshop. And he married to a Tibetan lady here. We talked to the very sweet lady, and their goal is not only to provide the best quality yogurt in Tibet to their customers, but also, in her words, to save a little bit piece of memory and a tiny bit of soul that you might lose on your way when you're working too hard, when you're living your life too fast. And they said, actually, you can leave a note here after so many years. Of course, you're not going to remember what you were thinking when you were writing down those sentimental words, but you can still recognize your handwriting. And several years later, when you read that sentence again in that really already worn out notebook, and you realize time has done a lot of things to you, but perhaps that same amount of time has not changed Tibet, and you can still find that little piece of you here, and that is their goal, to save a little piece of everyone in their store.
Very nice. Lai Ming, you've had plenty of time to think about your roundup speech, so what do you say now?
I think after Nyo's introduction or description of that yoga shop, I think I finally find the missing piece that I've been looking for during my trip here. We've been here for almost 2 weeks, and for the 14 days, it's always been something that I have to do, always something necessary. Even eating and then sleeping is something that I have to do. Outside of that, it's always work and scheduling and traveling. So there's never been a brief moment where I can just take a break and breathe slowly and enjoy the scenery. Even our very exciting short video at the Nancha Bava peak. I mean, we did it because we wanted everybody else to see it, not because I wanted to see it. If you give me that opportunity, I'll just sit quietly on a bench and just gaze at that peak and just stay undisturbed. I mean, that's what I want for a trip. But again, looking back, it's been a journey worth taken. I mean, I think I shared with the team before we even depart, because I've been here 3 times. I thought I could share some experience, and I said that when this is done, everything we remember will be the nice things that we've done to each other, nice things we said to each other, and the kind gestures and the beautiful scenery and some of the touching moments that we shared together. And still, even though I missed my own me time, I appreciate the whole journey that we've taken together.
And this complete journey has been recorded, live streamed, podcast, and it's all out there for you to see, so that you don't need to experience the high altitude sickness, nor do you need to but you only get the great side of things, and this is the Tibet we have shown you. It's been quite a journey, and I have to say it is definitely worth it, and I hope you enjoy all the content that we've put out. You can always find us on Apple Podcast at Roundtable China. You can email us, send us voice memos to ezfmroundtable@foxmail.com, and also on CGTN, Facebook, Weibo at 英语环球广播 are places that you have and can reach us. This is the final show. We are filming in Lhasa in Tibet. Have yourselves a great day. We'll see you next time on Roundtable. Bye.
What?
May all our staff members and supporting team join us on camera. Come on over, people. Come on. Yeah.
Aww. There you go, your shoes.
Putting his shoes on. That's all right. Come on, everybody. Everybody in position. Railway tripping. Tibet